Have you ever wondered what it would be like if everything you ever wanted was suddenly within your grasp? To wake up one morning and find that the world as you know it is no longer confined to rules, limits, or ordinary chance. To hold power so absolute that every choice, every whisper, every heartbeat of the universe could bend to your will, it is a thought both thrilling and terrifying. What would you do first? Would you fix the small annoyances that haunt your daily life, the tiny missteps that leave you frustrated? Or would you reach for something grander, something impossible, testing the edges of your morality, your patience, and your sense of self? In the quiet of ordinary existence, we rarely consider such possibilities. Life seems structured, predictable, confined to schedules, deadlines, and obligations. We navigate through our routines, making small decisions and wondering why fortune favors some and frustrates others. But then imagine a spark, a jolt that turns the mundane into the miraculous. Suddenly, what was once beyond reach becomes yours to command. Every traffic light, every cloud in the sky, every fleeting moment of joy or sorrow, it responds to your intention. Yet with such boundless power comes questions that no human mind can fully answer. Can one truly understand the weight of omnipotence? Can we see the threads connecting the lives of countless strangers and still act with compassion? Or do we falter, tempted to manipulate, to control, to serve ourselves before understanding the consequences? There is a beauty and curiosity here, a tension between desire and responsibility, between the thrill of freedom and the wisdom it demands. And it is within this delicate balance of wonder and chaos that we meet a man whose life mirrors the very questions we all ask. He struggles with ordinary misfortunes, the small heartbreaks of career, love, and daily routine. He complains, he dreams, he envies, he questions the fairness of the world. But his life as he knows it is about to transform in a way that defies imagination, challenging everything he thinks he understands about himself, about others, and about the very fabric of existence. A gift, a challenge, and an extraordinary journey await. One that tests humor, humility, and the human heart. One that explores what it means to hold everything and yet still seek connection, meaning, and love. And just as curiosity reaches its peak, just as wonder teeters on the edge of disbelief, the story reveals itself in a name that would come to define a remarkable journey of laughter, lessons, and limitless possibilities. Bruce Almighty. Bruce Almighty brought together a remarkable combination of talent, both in front of the camera and behind it, to craft a story that was as humorous as it was thought-provoking. At the center is Jim Carrey, portraying Bruce Nolan, a television reporter whose frustration with life, love, and the universe itself sets the stage for a once-in-a-lifetime transformation. Carrey's natural gift for physical comedy, expressive timing, and nuanced emotional range allows Bruce to feel both relatable and extraordinary. From his exasperated rants at everyday injustice to the wonder of wielding unimaginable power, Carrey's performance is magnetic, blending humor with heart. Opposite him is Jennifer Aniston, who plays Grace Connolly, Bruce's patient and loving girlfriend. Her role is pivotal. She anchors the narrative with warmth, understanding, and moral clarity. Grace's presence contrasts Bruce's chaotic tendencies, providing not just a love interest, but the emotional compass that guides the story's moral journey. Morgan Freeman embodies the role of God, a calm, wise, and gently humorous presence that frames Bruce's experience with divine patience and subtle lessons. Freeman's voice and presence elevate the narrative, providing gravitas amidst the comedic chaos and creating a relationship that feels both personal and cosmic. The film was directed by Tom Shadyac, known for his ability to balance slapstick humor with heartfelt storytelling. Shadyac orchestrates a world where the ordinary collides with the extraordinary, blending visual spectacle, clever situational comedy, and moments of quiet reflection to keep audiences engaged. His direction ensures that, even amid outrageous scenarios, the story's emotional core remains intact. The producers, including Tom Shadyac and Jim Carrey, credited in development roles, collaborated with Universal Pictures to ensure the film reached global audiences. Their vision combined commercial appeal with thoughtful storytelling, allowing humor, romance, and philosophical inquiry to coexist naturally. Bruce Almighty premiered on May 23, 2003 in the United States. Distributed by Universal Pictures, the film quickly captured audiences with its blend of accessible comedy and intriguing what-if scenarios. Its timing was ideal. Audiences were drawn to light-hearted escapism paired with reflections on power, responsibility, and human desire. The collaboration between this exceptional cast and crew produced not only a box office success, but also a film that balanced spectacle, philosophy, and humor with a universal appeal. Every member of the team contributed to a vision where human curiosity, divine playfulness, and comic chaos could intersect, giving audiences an experience both entertaining and reflective. Bruce Nolan is a man caught between ambition and frustration. A television reporter in Buffalo, New York, he lives a life that feels increasingly unfair. No matter how hard he works, recognition eludes him. His boss, Evan Baxter, gets the promotion he desires, while Bruce is left struggling with mundane assignments. At home, his relationship with Grace Connolly is strained, though it is clear that love remains a foundation he is hesitant to fully appreciate. Bruce's life is ordinary, yet underlined with a growing impatience and sense of injustice. He wonders aloud, often to comedic effect, why life seems to reward others while he suffers small and large indignities. One evening, after a particularly humiliating day at work, Bruce vents his frustrations to God, openly questioning why the world operates as it does. His words are raw, funny, and genuine, expressing envy, impatience, and a desire for more control over his fate. He wishes, almost in desperation, that God would give him the power to run the world himself. What seems like a rhetorical outburst is heard in a way Bruce never imagined. The next day, he discovers that he now possesses all the divine powers he had mocked, coveted, and imagined. Every thought, every wish, every command can bend reality to his will. Bruce initially revels in the novelty. He stops traffic, changes the weather, and manipulates events around him for personal gain. He becomes the ultimate prankster, orchestrating absurd yet entertaining chaos with the sheer ease of someone who controls the world. Yet as the days progress, he begins to realize that omnipotence is far more complicated than anticipated. Simple acts have unexpected consequences, and people's lives intertwine in ways he had never considered. Amid the comedy, Bruce attempts to fix his professional setbacks, creating perfect news stories and earning public acclaim. He uses his powers to demonstrate spectacular feats of skill and cleverness, but no achievement brings him the satisfaction he expected. Even as he bends the world to his whim, The one thing that remains elusive is Grace's full attention and affection. Bruce learns, gradually and often painfully, that love and happiness cannot be commanded or manipulated. As the story unfolds, Bruce experiments further, testing limits and learning lessons with a mix of humor and humility. He gains insight into the challenges of others, understanding their frustrations, desires, and fears. Each manipulation reveals a truth. Life is far more intricate than it seems, and power without wisdom or empathy is hollow. Even divine intervention cannot substitute for personal connection and responsibility. A pivotal moment arrives when Bruce recognizes the importance of surrender. He learns that to truly love, forgive, and connect, he must release control, trusting both in others and in the natural flow of life. This revelation transforms him. What began as a comedic exploration of omnipotence matures into a heartfelt meditation on human desire, accountability, and the true nature of fulfillment. The climax combines humor, romance, and emotional reflection. Bruce's final acts of power are measured, purposeful, and deeply human. He restores balance, strengthens relationships, and demonstrates an understanding that true influence lies not in control over the universe, but in how one navigates the world with empathy, patience, and love. By the conclusion, Bruce has grown. He reconnects with Grace, appreciating the complexity and beauty of a life shared, not dominated. He embraces both his limitations and the responsibilities he can manage, leaving audiences with laughter, awe, and contemplation. The story of Bruce Almighty is more than a whimsical comedy. It is a study in human desire, the thrill of possibility, and the transformative power of realizing that some things, like love and happiness, cannot be forced but must be nurtured. While Bruce Almighty charmed audiences worldwide with its humor, heart, and imaginative premise, it also faced controversy and bans in certain regions, primarily due to its bold treatment of religious themes. At the core of the film lies a provocative idea. An ordinary man, imperfect and flawed, is temporarily granted the powers of God. For many, this premise was a playful, comedic exploration of human desire and responsibility. For others, it was seen as irreverent, even blasphemous. In some countries with strict religious sensitivities, particularly Iran, the movie was banned outright. Authorities expressed concern that depicting a human wielding divine power, interacting casually with God, and experimenting with the rules of life and death could undermine religious teachings or be perceived as disrespectful to sacred beliefs. The comedic treatment of these themes, even in a light-hearted, moralistic narrative, was viewed as culturally inappropriate or offensive. This type of censorship highlights how humor and spirituality can intersect in ways that are celebrated in some cultures, but considered taboo in others. Beyond outright bans, Bruce Almighty also sparked debate in broader media circles. Some critics and religious commentators questioned whether comedy was the appropriate lens for exploring divine authority. Could audiences truly learn ethical lessons about responsibility and morality when they are presented alongside slapstick antics, exaggerated visual gags, and fantastical interventions? These discussions fueled conversations about the balance between entertainment and cultural sensitivity, emphasizing how even family-friendly comedies can provoke serious reflection on theology and morality. Interestingly, the controversy did not hinder the movie's commercial success. In fact, debates about its content drew additional attention, making curious viewers more likely to see it where it was legally available. Yet the bans also underscored the cultural boundaries that filmmakers must navigate when handling religious or spiritual material. While some nations embrace the universal humor and moral undertones, others remain protective of traditional interpretations, highlighting the global diversity of beliefs and the limits of artistic license. In the end, Bruce Almighty stands as an example of how creative storytelling can spark both joy and debate. Its censorship in certain regions, particularly Iran, underscores the tension between playful imagination and cultural or religious sensitivities, reminding filmmakers that humor and divinity together can create both wonder and controversy. Bruce Almighty left a remarkable footprint on popular culture, comedy, and discussions about the human condition. Beyond being a box office success, it became a reference point for how humor, imagination, and philosophy can coexist on the big screen. Its influence continues to resonate across cinema, television, and everyday conversations about possibility, responsibility, and divine whimsy. The film popularized the what-if scenario in a way that was both accessible and profound. Audiences were captivated by the idea of an ordinary man suddenly empowered with unlimited abilities, exploring human desires, frustrations, and moral dilemmas. This resonated widely because it allowed viewers to reflect on their own lives. What would you do if nothing were impossible? How would you use power, wealth, or influence? By wrapping these questions in comedy, Bruce Almighty invited reflection without preaching, inspiring both laughter and introspection. In cinema, the film influenced other comedies that explored fantastical scenarios tied to human growth and morality. Its success demonstrated that films could combine slapstick humor with deeper life lessons, encouraging future projects that blend entertainment with ethical and philosophical themes. The clever visual effects, imaginative sequences, and Carrey's energetic performance set a benchmark for comedic storytelling in the early 2000s. Filmmakers began experimenting more boldly with exaggerated superpowers in everyday settings, knowing audiences were eager for humor that also prompted reflection. Culturally, Bruce Almighty impacted discussions about human behavior and responsibility. It highlighted that power, no matter how vast, carries consequences, and that true fulfillment comes not from control over others, but from empathy, patience, and love. Its moral undercurrent became a talking point in classrooms, interviews, and casual debates, with viewers pondering how small acts of kindness or ethical decisions can ripple through society. The film subtly encouraged audiences to consider accountability, the ethics of desire, and the importance of nurturing relationships rather than dominating circumstances. Its legacy also extends to popular vernacular and references, memorable phrases, scenes, and concepts, like Bruce commanding the world with simple gestures, or Morgan Freeman's calm and witty depiction of God, became part of everyday conversations and internet culture. Parodies, memes, and homages emerged, highlighting how the film's humor and ideas continue to entertain beyond the theater. In essence, Bruce Almighty shaped both comedy and culture by proving that films could be hilarious, imaginative, and meaningful simultaneously. It showed that exploring divine power and human responsibility could be both fun and thought-provoking, leaving audiences with lessons that lingered long after the laughter subsided. The movie remains a shining example of how humor, heart, and curiosity can create a story that entertains, inspires, and endures. As the credits roll on Bruce Almighty, what lingers is not just the laughter or the impressive visual gags, but a deeper reflection on life, power, and human nature. This film is more than a comedy. It is an exploration of the delicate balance between desire and responsibility, between ambition and compassion, between what we want and what truly matters. Bruce's journey reminds us that even with limitless power, the most profound changes come not from controlling the world, but from understanding it, and more importantly, understanding ourselves. Bruce's story is one of humanization. Despite being granted the powers of a deity, he remains unmistakably human, flawed, impulsive, humorous, and endearing. It is this very humanity that makes his growth compelling. He learns, through laughter, mistakes, and heartfelt moments, that influence is not about control, but about connection. That life's richness is found in empathy, in kindness, and in the courage to love without expectation. The film gently nudges the audience to reflect on their own lives. How do we exercise the influence we do have? Are we thoughtful in our choices, or are we lost in petty frustrations? What makes Bruce Almighty timeless is its balance. Comedy entertains, but philosophy teaches. The absurdity of Bruce stopping traffic, changing the weather, or causing small miracles for fun keeps viewers hooked and laughing. Yet each act carries an underlying message. Power, even if attainable, is meaningless without responsibility. The film's humor serves as a bridge, making philosophical and moral lessons accessible to a wide audience without feeling preachy. Culturally, the movie reminds us of the universal curiosity about divine power. It prompts viewers to imagine, dream, and question. What would we do if we could bend the world to our will? And more importantly, what would we learn about ourselves in the process? In exploring these questions, the film resonates with audiences of all ages, backgrounds, and beliefs, offering not just entertainment, but thoughtful introspection wrapped in laughter and spectacle. Ultimately, Bruce Almighty leaves a lasting impression because it humanizes the divine and divinizes the human. It shows that growth comes not from omnipotence, but from self-awareness, love, and humility. Bruce's final realization that happiness cannot be commanded and that true fulfillment comes from genuine relationships and compassion is a lesson viewers carry beyond the theater. For the channel Hollywood Uncensored, this story is more than a review. It is an exploration of the intersection between humor, morality, and human curiosity. It reminds us that even in the most fantastical scenarios, the most powerful lessons are profoundly simple. Be kind, be thoughtful, and cherish the connections that make life meaningful. So as you reflect on Bruce Nolan's chaotic, hilarious, and ultimately transformative journey, remember this: sometimes the greatest power we possess is not what we can control, but how we choose to live, love, and grow.